And today we will be previewing the USPN or UFC on ESPN 33. Anthony Smith versus Alexander Rakic. Pretty decent card, not great by any means, but I would say it's a little bit better than last week. And yeah, so we'll start with talking about what happened last week. No other way to cut it up other than my picks were terrible, but it was a very weird card. There were multiple fights canceled. One, I think, was the night before, and then the other one was pretty much a last-minute scrap with the OSP and Alonzo Menafield fight. But we'll see it soon. I believe it's either next week or the week after. But yeah, the picks were pretty bad. There was some huge upsets on the card. Maria Agapova loss to Shayna Dobson was the biggest underdog cash since Holly Holm beat Rousey, I believe. And also there was a fight on the prelims. That was also one of the three biggest underdog wins in the past couple of years. But all around, a really weird card. Hopefully we can bounce back, get more to where we were in the first week. And yeah, so I'm hoping that it's better, because another one like that would be devastating. So we will start with one fight on the prelims, and it is Zach Cummings versus Alessio Deterico. The odds have actually moved a little bit, even in the last 20 minutes. I believe Cummings is around plus 105, but Cummings is a bit of a journeyman. He's bounced around a couple of divisions, but seems to have found a decent spot here at middleweight. 23-7 on his career, and Deterico, the Italian, is 12-4. Cummings is the older fighter. I believe he's 36, and Deterico is 30. But yeah, Cummings is a pretty solid fighter. He's got 5 knockouts, 12 submissions, which is something I'll definitely touch on later, and 6 decision wins, and has also never been knocked out. He has been tapped twice and has lost 5 fights by decision. So not an easy guy to knock out by any means. Definitely likes to fight on the ground a little bit. And then on the other side, Deterico has 5 knockouts, 4 subs, 3 decisions, a pretty well-rounded fighter. But he is coming off 2 straight losses, and to be honest, doesn't really have a great win. He's been pretty inconsistent. He kind of fights down to who he's fighting. So he seems to just be a middle-of-the-pack fighter, but a win here could definitely get him a bigger name. Maybe low end of the rankings if he's lucky, but definitely a big spot here for him. But I really don't think that these guys are too even though the odds say they are. If this fight's on the ground, I definitely give the advantage to Cummings. If there's some clinch work, I also give the edge to Cummings, and I think their striking is pretty even. Neither of them are too polished on the feet. And so, yeah, I mean, this is just something that I like here. Cummings is definitely the more experienced fighter, has fought the bigger names. And, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think this fight will go to the ground, and Cummings can lock into some submissions from pretty crazy angles and spots that you might not see coming. So for an inexperienced guy like Deterico, might get caught there. But with more experience, more ability on the ground, in the clinch, and I honestly might even edge him on the feet. And also he has the more impressive recent resume, so I like Cummings here at minus 105, but actually around plus 105 now. So that's my only pick on the prelims, as to be honest, the prelims aren't that good of a watch this week, but we'll go straight into the main card where we have Magomed Ankalaev versus Ion Cutelaba. This is a rematch. As I have on screen, it's not really one that anyone asked for, but with the way the first fight went, we get it anyway. So for those that did not see the first fight, it was one of the weirder fights in recent memory. I'll break it down really. It was just in the first round, Cutelaba got hit, and he might have gotten hurt. A lot of people seem to think that he was a little bit stunned, and he was kind of wobbling around a little bit. And I think he definitely faked it to the extent that he was hurt. He might have recovered, but he kept going, wobbling and around, trying to get Ankalaev to open himself up for a big shot. And the ref stopped the fight after a couple more strikes landed. and Cutelaba kept wobbling around thinking that he was out on his feet and called the fight. And then immediately Cutelaba started protesting, yelling, and everything like that, and was perfectly fine. So he definitely was faking the extent of his injury, if any at all. But so because of that, we get the rematch. And to be honest, I don't really think it's too close of a fight. Ankalaev has 8 knockouts and 6 decision wins in his career. And his only loss is to Paul Craig, who, if anyone knows the sport, he's one of the best grapplers in the division. And you can say that in the entire UFC as well. Meanwhile, on the other side, Cutelaba is pretty much a pure knockout artist. He has 12 of his wins by knockout, 2 by sub, and 1 decision. So he doesn't go the distance very often. But one thing I will say is he has fought the better competition. He's fought in Cannonier, Glover Teixeira. But in both of those fights, he was kind of just thrown to the wolves. He was coming off impressive wins, but against way worse opponents, and kept trying to get that push and kept losing, setting them back. So he does have a handful of decent wins, but nothing crazy impressive. But the one thing about this fight that probably makes it intriguing, other than the fact that it's a rematch, is Cutelaba's out of the octagon antics. For the weigh-ins today, he painted himself completely green for the second straight time. That's why his nickname is the Hulk. So obviously it's a weird sight to see a man fully painted in green, and I mean like fully painted in green. And also in the first fight, during Bruce Buffer's introductions, he did the slit the throat hand motion and stormed straight into Ankalaev's chest, and they had to get broken up before the fight even started. And obviously doesn't look too good when you get knocked out in the first round, regardless of if it's the ref's fault or not. But once the fight actually starts, Cutelaba is pretty limited. He's not really a polished striker. He goes for the big looping overhands, looking for the knockout. And really, other than that, it's a pretty simple striking offense that he has. But I will say he definitely does have the heavy hands and can knock someone out at any given moment. But meanwhile, Ankalaev he does have some power, definitely not on the level of Cutelaba, but he's definitely the more polished striker. His jabs and straights come through, set up his big shots. So I think he has better combos, quicker hands, and I think he's also the smarter fighter. I know I've seen some people say if your best method to win a fight is to pretend like you're hurt, probably not the best camp or best coaching or whatever you want to say. But yeah, so Ankalaev and Cutelaba will probably both be looking for the knockout. And I just don't think Cutelaba's big shots will land. And I also think that they're going to create openings, which Ankalaev will take advantage of. I don't know if I would put it at minus 320 and plus 260. They might be a little bit closer than that just because of the potential knockout power. But I definitely like Ankalaev to win the fight. He was definitely in a limited amount of time. He was winning the first fight, and I think there'll be more of that, kind of just piecing away at him with jabs and straights and landing some combos in there. So as long as he avoids the big shot, I really don't see how he loses this fight. So I definitely like Ankalaev here to win this one, even though he is, I think, the biggest favorite on the card. Next fight on the main card is an interesting one that I actually like a good amount. It's Ricardo Lamas versus Bill Algeo, who I have the records up on screen. Lamas has been around for a while. He's 19-8, and Algeo's making his UFC debut at 13-4, and Lamas minus 300. Algeo coming back at plus 240. So Lamas has been around for a long time. It's 10 years in the UFC, I believe, and meanwhile, this is Bill's UFC debut. And there's definitely no arguing that Lamas has fought some top guys. He's beaten Cub Swanson, Diego Sanchez. He beat Charles Oliveira, and I actually think he submitted him, which is always impressive because Oliveira is probably the best jiu-jitsu fighter in UFC history. But now he is 38 years old and has lost 3 of his last 4. He lost to Josh Emmett, who just beat Shane Burgos, Mirsad Bektic, and also Calvin Kattar, who is, I believe he got a fight with Max Holloway. So 3 decent guys, but I definitely would like to see him win at least one of those. And on the other side, like I said, Algeo's making his UFC debut. He's won 6 of his last 7. And the interesting part here is that he was on Dana White's Contender Series and lost. and only won one fight after the Contender Series, and now is obviously back on the UFC. And I mean, he beat Tim Dooling, who was like a respectable fighter, but definitely not anything crazy. But he earned himself a contract, so I think this might be someone that Dana likes a lot and thinks that they can push a little bit, because it's not very often that you see someone lose on the Contender Series and get onto a UFC card so quick. So I think he's probably there for a good reason. Dana likes him, and the guys that he likes usually do perform well. So I am going to take Bill Algeo at plus 240 as a pretty decently sized underdog, but definitely would not be surprised if Lamas wins this fight. He is well-rounded, but he's old at this point of his career. He's not what he used to be, getting a little bit more prone to the heavy shots, and just doesn't really have the power that he used to have. So I think that Algeo has something in him that Dana sees, and yeah, so plus 240 is a pretty decent-sized dog. I like him there for sure. And we will move right on to the third fight of the main card, which is Alexa Grosso and Yong Kim. I have the records up there. You can read them for yourself. But Grosso is around minus 300, and Kim's coming back at around plus 250, depending on your book. Maybe get them at a little bit different prices. But I actually think that there is value on Grosso here as a minus 300 favorite. I think there should be a wider margin. Yong Kim's really not that great. Grosso's she's coming off of a great fight with Carla Esparza. There was a majority decision loss, but I think most people, along with myself, believe that she won that fight. And yeah, I mean, she's been around a while. She's definitely a staple in the UFC for the women's division. And Kim's coming off of a win, but she also has missed weight in her last two fights. And I just don't think she's anything really special. So I'm not going to go too much into this fight. I just think that Grosso is clearly the better fighter, more experienced. So I like her at minus 300, although that is a very chalky pick. But I'll get right into the co-main event, because this is one that I really do want to talk about. It's my most anticipated fight on the card. It is Neil Magny versus ruthless Robbie Lawler. And anyone that knows UFC knows Robbie Lawler is an absolute dog. He's a legend, former champ, and all of that. But I'll give away the pick quickly. I do like Magny here. He's a super underrated fighter. He's beaten guys like Kelvin Gastelum, Hector Lombard, Johnny Hendricks, Carlos Condit. And he's also fought guys like RDA, Lorenz Larkin, Damian Maia, and Santiago Ponzinibbio, who is one of my favorite fighters in the division, although he hasn't fought in a while. But Magny's never out of shape. One thing about him is he has one of the best gas tanks in the UFC. He works throughout the entire fight, has crazy high output, and really never gets tired, which is a good thing, especially when you can just work all the way out through 3 rounds and maybe steal a round here or there, which obviously will swing the fight. But another thing here is Magny has an 80-inch reach, which is huge for this division. He actually has a 6-inch advantage over Lawler in reach. And, yeah, I mean, I just think Magny's going to work and steal a round here, win a round, and that's all you need in a 3-round fight. But Lawler, like I said, is no joke. He has some of the greatest fights in UFC history. He actually won Fight of the Year 3 years in a row, I believe. I already said he's a former champ, but one thing to note that he has been on a steady decline since the legendary Rory McDonald's second fight. He's lost 4 of his last 5. He beat Cowboy Cerrone, but he lost to Tyron Woodley, RDA, Ben Askren, and most recently Colby Covington. But I will say those are good losses, maybe other than Askren, but kind of a disputed loss there. I believe it was Mark Goddard called the fight, thinking that Robbie was choked, but clearly wasn't. So that one's up in the air, but still not trending in the right direction for Ruthless. But he's a warrior. He loves to just sit in the middle and throw hands, but he does take a lot of damage and has accrued probably more damage than most people in the UFC. But he does rarely get knocked out. And his fight style is part of the reason why he's been in so many Fight of the Years and Fight of the Nights and all that. But like I said, I think Magny's just going to work and probably win him a round or two. And I think ultimately he'll grind his way out to a decision. And even though the name of Robbie Lawler at plus 220 will probably be the most popular underdog pick on the card, I just don't see it. Magny is it's kind of built different. I'm not going to lie. You don't see people work like him. So Robbie definitely could get the knockout. Don't get me wrong. Could grind his way to a decision. I mean, he is Robbie Lawler. It's not taking anything away from him. But I just think Magny's in better shape right now. Has put on the more impressive recent performances. And so I like Magny at minus 250. And I almost promise that this will be fight of the night if these guys come out and throw like they usually do. And on to the main event. One thing I will note right away, it is a 3-round main event, not a normal 5-round, which does make a huge difference in this fight. It's Alexander Rakic, who's 12-2, and Anthony Lionheart Smith, who has an incredible 33-15 record in the UFC, or not in the UFC, but in his MMA career. Anthony Smith loves to fight. As you see, he's got 48 professional fights. Obviously a lot. But Rakic is the favorite here at minus 250. He lost his first fight of his career and then rattled off 12 straight wins. He did have some decent wins over Devin Clark and Jimmy Manua before losing a split decision to Volkan Ozdemir, but I say losing in pretty much air quotes as it was a split decision, but I think pretty much everyone that watched that fight thinks that he took the first 2 rounds. So probably should be 13-1, not going to lie. But he is getting Lionheart here, so definitely not a bad loss if you're getting guys like Anthony Smith coming off a loss. So Rakic has 9 knockouts, 1 submission, and 2 decision wins in his career, and has been really impressive since joining the UFC. He has really good striking, some decent power, but he's also a solid wrestler, which I think is a big advantage here to kind of cancel out Lionheart's ability on the ground. But talking about Anthony Smith, Lionheart does fulfill that nickname to the fullest. He really never gives up. He's a dog. He's a warrior. He can take punishment. He always fights back. Honestly, yeah, he could have won the belt against John Jones, but because John Jones threw an illegal knee and they could have called the fight and won the belt by DQ. But he was getting beaten up bad and said, you know what, now if I'm going to win the belt, I want to win it the right way. I want to beat him. And decided to keep going and kept getting beat up the whole fight. But he said that he wouldn't change it even if he went back, even though the corner was shaking their heads in the post-fight interviews. So maybe even though his corner didn't agree with it, that's just the way he is. He's built like that. And obviously you got to love him. But he does have 18 knockouts in his career, 12 submissions, and 2 decisions, but he is coming off that embarrassing loss to Glover Teixeira. Going into the fight, I think probably everyone would have picked him to win that fight, and he got pretty much dominated late in the fight. First 2 rounds, he did all right, but after that, he was just on his back getting pummeled by Glover Teixeira, and a fight where a lot of people thought that the ref should have stopped it way earlier, or even that the corner should have thrown in the towel. But regardless, he ended up getting knocked out. And, but let's not discredit him completely. He still has wins over Volkan Ozdemir, Shogun, Sugar Rashad, and Alexander Gustafsson. So he is good, and he definitely he's an all-right striker, nothing special, but he also has good wrestling abilities. But he doesn't use it too often because he is significantly better off the top rather than on his back. So, like he does shoot for takedowns every now and then, but if he does get sprawled or gets reversed, he's kind of at a disadvantage there. So I expect this fight to mainly play out on the feet, where I do think that Rakic has an advantage. But the 3-round main event, I think, is huge here because it definitely favors Rakic. He's never been past the 3rd round. He's never been in a title fight or main event. So he's never gone 5 rounds. And meanwhile, Lionheart's gone 5 rounds, or has been in a 5-round fight, I believe, his last 4 or 5 fights out there. So he definitely would have had the advantage in a gas tank and everything being experienced in 5-round fights, but that is not the case here. So I think Rakic definitely, is an up-and-comer here and is primed for a pretty big fight, assuming that he gets the win. And, I think he will get it. I think it will play out on the feet, like I said, where Rakic is better. And I don't know if this will be by stoppage or decision, and I could definitely see it being a 29-28 fight either way. But I do think Rakic has the better ability to finish the fight inside the distance, and also just think that he'll straight up win more rounds here. So I definitely like Rakic at -250, and yeah, so that's it for the card. It's not a great one, but it's better than last week, like I mentioned. I think most people are just looking forward to the next big UFC event, and unfortunately, this isn't it. So I'll just give the quick recap of picks before signing off here. We got Zach Cummings on the prelims at -105, even money, whatever he's at now. Then in the opener of the main card, Magomed Ankalaev at -320. Although, like I said, the power from Cutelaba is there, could end the fight at any time. I also like the big underdog, Bill Algeo over Ricardo Lamas. In the women's fight, Alexa Grosso over Ji-Yeon Kim. And then the co-main event, the one I'm looking forward to the most, Neil Magny at -250. And then I will take the favorite as well in the main event, Alexander Rakic over Anthony Smith. Yeah, so like I said, we're looking for a big bounce back after last week. I think we can definitely get some more winners here, although they are some pretty big favorites. Seems like everybody on the card's at least a -200, or at least on the main card. So, yeah, thank you guys. I'll be back Monday for underdog picks for NBA and MLB. I'll be at 11 a.m. Monday through Thursday, and then obviously I'll be back Friday previewing the next UFC event as well. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I will